Good morning. It's great to see you. You made it out despite the rain. And we're here to praise the Lord this morning. But before we have our opening song, I thought we'd have a bit of a warm-up chorus so that we're ready for worship when worship begins. So Pam's been playing it, okay? And I'm going to attempt to sing it, and hopefully you'll all join in, because I think we do know this one. But it's a good one for getting you in the place of praise, because we're made for praise, aren't we? And when we praise the Lord, we find that we have the strength to cope with whatever it is that life is bringing us, because we're people of praise. So I'm going to turn the mic off so my singing's not that bad. And we're going to give it a go. And hopefully we'll get the words. Is it coming, the words?
No. You need to go back.
Okay.
The first one.
It's a good job it's only a warm-up, isn't it?
Yep.
Right, there we go. Lovely. Right, let's give it a go. I hope you can see it. Praise in the heavens and all that's above. Praise in the angels and heavenly hosts. Let the whole earth praise in the sun and the bright shining star. Praise in the heavens and waters and skies. Let the whole earth praise Him. Right, that was a good practice, but I think we need a bit more noise. So can we have some drums going? And I've got a drum there. Can we have some tambourines going a bit more? We know what we're doing now, so we're really going to give it some welly, aren't we? Good, wonderful. Are you all right? Yeah, great. Right, let's give it another go then. good warm-up, wasn't it, to get us ready for worship? I love that line in that song, great in battle, because we are the Salvation Army, aren't we? We're fighting for what is right, but we're not fighting by ourselves because the battle belongs to the Lord and we have the victory. So that fills us with courage, doesn't it, on a day-to-day basis. Now, before we have our first opening song, I just want to read these great words from the Psalms. And it's Psalm 100. This is a good place to start with worship. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. Can I get an hallelujah? We are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. So enter his gates with thanksgiving and enter his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good and his love endures forever. And his faithfulness continues through all the generations. Amen. God bless us today, and we're going to stand up and we're going to sing In Christ Alone. Now, if you're using the blue book, it's 861. 861 in our songbook, but we should have the words coming up hopefully clearly on the screen this morning. In Christ alone my hope is found. He is my strength. I've forgotten the rest of the words and I can't see them, but they're in the songbook and we're going to sing them just now. Pam, can we have a bit of an introduction? seats. It's a fantastic anthem of praise and prayer this morning. And let's just come before God. Let's come before him this morning and still our hearts and minds in his presence just now. Lord, we praise and we thank you for all that you are, because you are Almighty God, because there is nobody that compares with you. There is no problem that is bigger than you are. There is no darkness that your light cannot overcome. And we thank you and we praise you for that today. And we come before you as your family, as your children. You've opened the door of heaven and you've welcomed us in. You've called us yours. Our names are written on the palms of your hands. And for that we give you thanks, Lord. And we acknowledge today the cost of that, the cost that Jesus bore for us, that you bore at Calvary, so that we could be counted as yours. And we thank you that it didn't just end at Calvary, but that there was resurrection power, not only that brought Jesus back from the dead, but that brings all things back, redemptive power that is making everything new. And I pray that today, as we gather in this place as your family, that redemptive power will work in us, in every part of us, transforming us and making us new, so that we are able to shine like lights for you in this dark world and to make a difference and to be a blessing. And I pray that as we're in this place just now, we will open our hearts and our ears to what your word has to say to us, and that we will leave this place more and more like Jesus. Amen. Amen. Now I'm going to invite Lieutenant Colonel Massimo Terzi. He's coming and he's going to share some details about his travels, because he's been all over the world. He's going to talk to us about 2 places that he's visited to see what the Salvation Army is doing, how God is at work in these places. And I really am excited by what he's going to share with us. And we're going to learn some more about it this morning. So let's give him some encouragement as he comes to share with us.
Thank you. I'm very happy that I feel at home here. We were saying with Anne Florence just now, it's nice to be here. We feel at home. So thank you also for the encouragement and possibility to share something of the reasons why you don't see me very often, because I am often flying somewhere in the world. So why am I flying? If we can start the presentation. Some time ago, General Andre Cox decided that we needed to give a new impulse to the Salvation Army worldwide. And realizing that the culture in people is changing, the culture within the Salvation Army, the desire for people to be involved in decision making, not just being told what to do, but to be consulted, was becoming a strong reality. An accountability movement was launched. This was during his time as general, so before Brian Peddle was elected general. And so there was this accountability movement with the scope of equipping the Salvation Army to be fit for the 21st century challenges. And this had to take place with 2 big changes. First of all, the leadership culture that we have in the Salvation Army, from autocratic to consultative, inclusive, involving, and also then adapt our structures accordingly. And so now, in most territories in the world, the Salvation Army has a territorial commander, but also has a governance board that defines the strategy and how the mission is fulfilled. So this is just to say why I travel. And there is a group of us. There are 5 advisors. 2 are stationed in London at IHQ, and 1 is in Australia, 1 in New Zealand, and 1 in India. And we have the 61 territories divided within this group, and I have 13 of them. And sometimes I also accompany others in their journeys. So during the pandemic, it was not possible to travel, and everything had to be done online. And so we would have long meetings online, and every time involving different groups of people. But then it was finally possible to travel. And the next slide shows the countries. You will see the arrows. The countries where I have been so far, and the song from John Gowans acquires a completely new meaning. You know, they will come from the east, they will come from the west. That's wonderful, because we have the privilege to meet the people who will be with us, sitting at the great party in heaven with Jesus. And so. These are all the travels so far, but I thought about sharing something about 2 particular. One, the one I had the privilege to do to Dhaka in Bangladesh, and it was a long flight, and it was completely an immersion in a completely different culture. Of course, we have people from Bangladesh here and people from Asia, but they live in a Western context, although they import some of their customs. But to be there and to feel as a completely outsider, we travel in Europe and we feel like part of Europe, because there is a Western culture, but there it was completely a whole different thing. But I don't only do teaching and presentations. I also try to be involved in the ministry of the leadership there. So if they ask me to preach, I do it with pleasure, or if they asked for a testimony. And here I was unprepared. They were doing a presentation of little diplomas to people who had been learning English. And so the officer commanding, the leader in Bangladesh, said, "Oh, would you like to do the presentation?" I didn't know the people. I didn't know what they had been doing, and I had to present these certificates. But it was a very nice occasion, because for them it was important to have someone from outside acknowledging what they had done, the efforts. And the project had been funded by the Salvation Army International, and the teacher had been chosen, and he had been teaching. Most of these people were employees or Salvation Army officers to enlarge also their vision, their understanding. So much publications in the world, Salvation Army world, are in English, and these people don't even have songs translated in Bengali, so they use songs from other organizations, but they miss completely all the whole theology that is the Salvation Army theology that is embedded in our songs. And so this is an opportunity for them to enlarge their vision. So I was there giving out these certificates, but the next slide shows actually the context in which I operate. The divisional commanders, the heads of departments, some corps officers, and some social centers directors were in this training, and it is very interesting to interact with people, and that's where the difference is evident and is so enriching. I mean, I feel really blessed by this opportunity. And it was a good time of being there and sharing, but also you have the next slide shows the group that was participating to this training, and was a large group. And it's always interesting to see also to have the possibility to put things in a spiritual context. The references to when we speak about leadership and we think of Jesus, who was washing his disciples' feet and said, "If I, the master, am doing this to you, how much more you should do the same to others." So this kind of leadership is important, and in a sense we try to influence leaders at all levels in that direction and move away, as I said, from the typical Salvation Army idea of leadership when one decides everything, even if they are not experts in that area, but because they are the leaders, they have the last word. But here we try to create an atmosphere of contributing. Everyone has value. There is no difference, and everyone can share what they think, and they can contribute to decision making. And also, as I said, if I'm asked to be involved in a meeting, the next slide shows one meeting in a corps in Dhaka. The Salvation Army in Dhaka has, among other corps, there is a compound where the training college is present, and social institutions and the corps. And what really touched me was to see the children from a children's home who were present. Now, Dhaka, Bangladesh is a Muslim country, so most people are Muslim, and Christianity is a very small percentage in the country, and the religion of the children is respected. They are not made to go to the meeting. If they don't want to go to the meeting, they don't have to. But in the picture before, you can see that there are some children from the blind school, and some others who are dressed in white. These are junior soldiers, but a moment came when they were all singing there, and it was so touching because you could see that some of them could not really see what was going on because their eyes showed that, and I was so much touched. I mean, I must say it's emotionally demanding. One thing is to know about it, and one thing is to be there, and so it's good to be showing also love in being with the people, and they are so proud to be taken in a photograph with someone from another country. It's very humbling, I must say, because one says, who am I? But if we can bless them, it's something important. And also there are some amazing experiences. I was coming back from a dinner, and then suddenly I saw this big shape on the side of the road, and I ran forward, and I saw this big, huge elephant. It was not a zoo in town, it was just, these people were just, like I go on a bike or in a car, and they were on their elephant, and they were going around, and this is amazing, and I really liked it. So I took a photograph. But one thing I had to do was to be on a rickshaw, I said I have to go, but it was really an experience. The next picture shows the kind of traffic you have in Dhaka. And cars go everywhere, and crossing the road was one of the experiences I had to make. I said, no, I have to cross the road. I have to see how it is. And I managed. I'm still here. So you can see the rickshaws there, and I was, it was great to be there. And also to taste other things. There is this fruit there, I don't know the name, but I was made to eat it. And I really, sorry?
Peggy thinks it's
Yeah? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think, yeah, I seem to remember that was the name. It is interesting because for them it's something very, very special. And the tree was there. I said, what's that? And they said, oh, opened and gave us right from the tree. And the other trip I did recently was the one to Mexico, again for my appointment, and I had the privilege to be sharing the message. I must thank Catford Corps because when during the pandemic I had started learning a little Spanish. And then in a conversation with Michael and Rebecca, they said, oh, we have Spanish-speaking people here, and we don't know really how to do, there are many. And I said, well, I'm learning. If I can come, I can, it would be good for me, and maybe I can communicate. And that really gave me the impulse to go more intensively. And in the next picture, that's me on the left-hand side, very small by the cross, preaching in Spanish. So some progress has been made. And the little monument there on the right is the place where the Salvation Army was started in Mexico. Something worth...
I'm amazing that there was a thing there with the Salvation Army crest.
Well, that's the thing. They had to build a big road, and so the core was taken. I mean, the property was taken by the city, and so they were able to build a memorial there, the exact place where the Salvation Army started. And next picture is the group of people who came for the training. Most of them are in the photograph. And the next picture again. We were taken to a children's home, a beautiful place, and I really liked the little boy there in the middle towards the right, because he had an Italy soccer, so football we became friends right away. I don't know why, actually, but it was again a very moving opportunity. And the next photograph, and I'm almost finished, so don't be too worried about the length of the meeting today because of me. People try to make money in any way possible, but I'm not talking about criminal activities. There is about 140 million inhabitants in Mexico, and only 1/3 has a legal job where they pay taxes, and they are, there is something for their retirement, health coverage, and so on. And the other 2/3 had to find ways. So you have children in the street trying to sell whatever they can. A woman there knitting and selling beautiful colors. And the one in the middle is a shaman. There is a lot of syncretism, religious syncretism in Mexico. Animist religion, the religion of the dead. You will probably remember in one of James Bond movies there is a whole march of people all dressed like dead people. They actually celebrate the dead, and so in the street people go and they how do you say, cast away bad spirits, the shamans. And there is the other one sitting next who reads your hands, and then next by there is a big church, and it's really a big contrast. Makes you think. Sometimes we assume so much, even when we speak with people about Jesus, and there is a wider context. And then. My wife tells me I shouldn't say this, but I fall in love very easily. And so the next picture, we were eating an ice cream with the leaders, and then I saw these three little girls very tiny like that, next to their mothers who were selling bracelets, necklaces, and I thought, how their life, to me as a Westerner, can appear as very miserable. And I thought, to be standing right to one of the most beautiful ice cream places in the city and seeing people with ice cream, I said, can we ask the mothers if I can pay an ice cream for them? And so that's the result. And the third girl was too shy and went away, and the little one was sitting so next to me. I thought, I'm glad I'm not in the UK. Someone would say, the guy is sitting next to that little girl, But that was yeah. And then the next picture is coming back home. It's so nice to be back home. And yeah, so it is a privilege, but it's a possibility for service and sharing. And yeah, I ask you to pray for those two children's home when you think about it, and those people who are involved in serving in those two countries, Bangladesh and Mexico. Thank you.
Now, Massimo, you were telling me, weren't you, that many of the officers are not guaranteed their salaries, and they're living on 40% of what they should get paid, but they're still being faithful to what God has called them to do. And I know that many of you will understand that already, but I think it's important for us just to pray for our fellow believers around the world who are making sacrifices that we can't even imagine for the sake of the gospel. So we're going to sing a song that reflects the faithfulness of God. Lord, I come before your throne of grace. I find rest in your presence and fullness of joy. In worship and wonder, I behold your face, singing, what a faithful God have I. So it's number 378 in the books. If you're using the blue books, we have got the words coming up. And after this, I'm just going to open up the service for prayer. If there are one or two people who just want to pray for ourselves or for those other believers around the world, we're just going to open up the service now, after we've sung this song. 378 in the songbook. Lord, I come before your throne of grace. I find rest in your presence and fullness of joy. In worship and wonder I behold your face, singing what a faithful God have I. What a faithful God have I. Let's pray together. Amen. Lord, we thank you that you are a faithful God, that you're faithful through all generations. And we think of those around the world who are having a more difficult time than we are. Some of them are in this country, and some of them are far from here. But you are the faithful God. And we thank you that because you are faithful, we find that we are able to be faithful. Even when life is hard, even when we're tempted to give up and quit, even when we can't see the way forward, you keep encouraging us to go forward. The faithful God who promises never to leave us, to always be with us. And Lord Jesus, today we put our hands in yours once again, and we ask that that seed of faithfulness will grow into a mighty tree in our lives, and that people will be blessed and will be able to see what God has done. We pray that you will help us always to be people who count our blessings and not just count our pay packets. That we will be people who are thankful in everything that we do, even when things are tough. We ask that you would do this for us and help us always to be mindful of others, Lord. Amen. Amen. Now, we're going to have our Bible reading, and Michael's going to come and bring that to us, and then we're going to sing together and give to the Lord in our offering.
Our Bible reading this morning is taken from the Gospel of John, and we're looking at John chapter 13, and we're just going to be reading a couple of verses there, 31 to 35. If you're following in the core Bible, it's on page 1081. Okay. When he was gone, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will glorify the Son in himself and will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you: love one another. As I have loved you, So you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Pass back to Rebecca.
So we're going to hear some more about that text in a few moments' time. But before we do that, we're going to offer back to God something of what he's blessed us with recently. We're going to give to the Lord in our offering. And while we do this, we're going to sing, "All my days I will sing this song of gladness." It's 238 if you're using the blue books. 238, but we should have the words coming up on the screen as well. And this is our opportunity to give something of what God has blessed us with back to him. And then Shirai is going to pray over what we've given back to the Lord this morning.
All my days I will sing the song of gladness. My praise will last and all the life. For if I listen with my heart, and praise the merciful of my life. I will trust in the cross of my Redeemer. I will sing of the blood that never fails, of sins forgiven, of conscience cleansed, of death defeated and life behind. Beautiful Savior, wonderful Counselor, mountain majesty, Lord of history, your praise is the light, star of the morning, glorious in holiness, you're the risen one, heaven's champion, and you reign over all. I long to be where the praise is never ending, to dwell where the glory never fades, where endless Amen. Amen.
Good morning. How are we this morning? Good. Now, I don't know about you. I really like it when we start the sermon bit with a bit of fun. I don't know. Do you enjoy that bit, or is it just for me? You're terrified about what kind of fun I might be talking about. Yeah. Don't worry, you don't have to leave your seat. Okay? All you got to do is look up at the screen. I thought we'd play Spot the Christian this morning. Okay? You ever done Where's Wally? Yeah. It's not like that at all. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'll give you little points about the individual in the picture. Okay? And we'll go through a few and you tell me which one you think is the Christian. Okay? So this is the first one. Can we have the little bio information, please? There we go. This is Simon. Okay? So Simon grew up in a Christian family. And he entered the ministry 15 years ago. And he wakes up every morning before the sun rises to pray for 2 hours. Okay? So that's Simon. Let's see our next one. Here we go. This is Mary. Okay, Mary was christened as a baby. She always wears her big cross for everybody to see. She got it when she was 5 years old. She never goes out without wearing her cross. And she sings in the church choir. Yep, that's Mary. Next one. This is William. Okay. William is a 5th generation salvation. Is that possible? 5 generations? Yeah. 5th generation salvationist. He plays solo cornet in the band. And he has been the core treasurer for the last 30 years. Yep. Okay, and we've got one more. This is Martha. Martha goes to church when she can because she's got to work 2 jobs to be able to provide for her children. She does the cleaning for her neighbor, and that should say shopping, not showing. But she does the cleaning and shopping for her elderly neighbor, and quite often she watches her friend's kids after school so that her friend can go to work and make some money for her family. Which one's the Christian? The truth is, any of them could be Christians, couldn't they? I don't want to decry growing up in a Christian home or anything like that. But our Bible reading today, I'll just remind you of what it says. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. Which one of those people from that definition of being a follower of Jesus is showing their faith? Augusta. Martha. Martha is showing her love in a practical way, isn't she? Those other people, don't get me wrong, they might do good things as well. But as an identifier, we are told that love is the identifier as being a disciple of Jesus, the way we love each other. And this was a new thing for them at the time, because the way they identified each other was very different back then as to what you believed. Now, I've got some other pictures. I wonder if you can identify what these people are in these pictures, okay? So here's the first picture. There are other pictures, aren't they? There we go. This guy. What is this guy? He's a punk. Yeah, he's a punk. Now, we use today, that's like a slang term. You say somebody's a punk, it means something a little bit different than that. But he's a punk, isn't he? Yeah, you can tell that by the way he looks, the way he has his hair, some of his body piercings. Excellent. Next one. What's this guy? The English... No, you gave it away, James. He's a mod. Yeah. English people might know this one a little bit better because it's more of an English thing. He's a mod. It drives the moped, has the shirt on, has the haircut. Mods, it's kind of back, is it the 50s or 60s? Yeah. So basically they're called mods because they ride mopeds and whatnot. So they stand in contrast to people who are into rock and roll. Yeah. Yep. So they're a mod. What about this next one? This is a modern day one. What's he? I've stumped you all now, haven't I? Maybe it's too modern. He does have a beard, but he has a very extravagant beard, doesn't he? What kind of people have very extravagant facial hair these days? Do my children know? Well, you have the answer, yeah. Okay, let's see it. Elsie said it. He's a hipster. Hipsters are all the things now. The men, not the women obviously, but the men tend to have very extravagant long beards. I don't know, have you seen some of these guys around now? They've got quite long beards, but they're very well maintained, very precisely cut. Yeah, hipsters. This is the way it was, thank you, James. This is the way it was in Israel at the time. You were identified by the way you looked, the way you dressed. For the Israelites, you were really holy if you had longer tassels than your neighbor. Or they used to wear, I think I've got this right, they used to wear these boxes with scripture in it, and they tie them to their foreheads. And things like that, just to show how devout they were. So Jesus saying to a group of people, you shall be identified if you love one another as my disciples. That was like totally blowing their minds. Because up till then, it was all about being seen to be doing the right things, making the right sacrifices, wearing the right clothes. But now it was about how they had relationship with each other. We've been on this journey for the last 12 months, haven't we? About seeking out deeper relationship with each other. And this is a conversation that's continued as part of our mission team meetings. Well, and we talk about other things, about what it means to have deeper relationship and how we can become better, have better relationships with each other in the church, how we can care for each other. And this verse this morning reminds us that ultimately it comes down to the way we love. But it's not just any love, is it? Jesus says that they have to love each other as I have loved you. It's a very specific kind of love. It's not the type of love that people were used to, but it's following Jesus' example of love. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with this particular verse of Scripture, Jesus had just literally washed the feet of his disciples. He was saying, when he said, love the way I love, he's pointing back to what he'd just done for them. Massimo referenced it, didn't he? When he was talking about washing the feet. The master washes the feet of the students or of his disciples. We're called to love like that. What he said blew people's minds. Spurgeon says, we're to love our neighbors as ourselves, but we're to love our fellow Christians as Christ loved us. And this is far more than we love ourselves. This one theologian says that Jesus not only is calling them to love, but he redefined what it meant to love by his life and his ministry. And this seems to be something that was taken to heart, because a Christian who came 100 years after, his name was Tertullian. Have I pronounced that correctly? Hopefully. Tertullian, he reports that the pagans of the day, so this is 100 years after Jesus went back to heaven, is recorded of saying of Christians, see how they love one another. The way we love each other is so important to our identity as followers of Jesus, that when people come in, or if we're out where people are, and they see us interacting with each other, they'll see something different. And not just something different, but something that they will want to be a part of. But what does it mean to love like Jesus? I hope some of you have got your Bibles on you. I wonder, would one person be able to look up for me John 13, verse 38. Okay. John 13, verse 38. Because if we need to love like Jesus, we need to see how Jesus loved people, don't we? So, will somebody read it out for us? With a nice, loud voice.
Then Jesus answered, "Will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly I tell you, before the cock crows, you will disown me 3 times."
Yes. So, Jesus here is predicting Peter's denial. Okay? Now, to love like Jesus is to persevere with people, to have perseverance in relationship. So often it's easy to walk away from a relationship when it gets uncomfortable, if we become hurt, or something like that. If there was anybody who had reason to walk away from people, it was Jesus, wasn't he? He was betrayed, he was rejected, and he was abandoned. And here we see one of his closest friends predicting that he's going to deny him. And we all know that he goes on to do that, doesn't he? But does Jesus give up on him? Does Jesus turn his back on Peter forever because he knows that this is going to happen? No, because in John, what do we see? We see Jesus restoring him, making that relationship right. This is the guy, he also said, "I'm going to build my church upon you." Jesus knew that he had to persevere in relationships with the people around him because they aren't always going to meet our expectations. But he knew that eventually they could become something more. They could become something better. I wonder, have you ever walked away from a relationship because somebody slightly annoyed you? Or have you ever felt, maybe you didn't go through with it, but have you ever felt, well, stuff you then, because somebody offended you, and you're willing to give up on that? With our relationships, we need to show perseverance. We need to be there for the long haul. That doesn't mean always hounding people. It doesn't always mean that we're there saying, forgive me, or let's put this right, or being a nuisance. But not giving up on that relationship. Sometimes we do need to give people some space, but we don't stop loving them. We don't stop praying for them. We don't stop being there for them. I don't know if you've ever worked with people who've been, perhaps children, that have been in quite ridiculous relationships where over and over again they've been rejected. We've got somebody who comes in and this individual's been rejected a lot in their life. And the first few times they came in, they kept testing us to see at what point we would say, enough, go away. So they would come out with they weren't rude to us, but they would come out with the most extreme things, expecting that we would reject them. But we haven't. We've shown them love. And this person continues to come in. Maybe not all the time, but they know this is a safe place that they can come, where they're going to be shown love and respect. I wonder if somebody else would then turn to John 1, 47 to 48 for us. There's going to be a few. Keep your Bibles handy because we're going to have a few Bible verses this morning. We'll make it nice and interactive. Does anybody found it? Going to read it out for us? John 1, 47 to 48. Okay, so the first verse pointed us towards perseverance. This verse is pointing us towards discernment. We need to have relationships with discernment. Now, in this particular verse, Jesus is showing an exceptional discernment, a discernment that comes through the Spirit. That is a gift that comes. But there is also a discernment that just comes naturally within people. Now, some of you might be thinking, what the heck is discernment? What is Michael talking about? Discernment is about a certain amount of understanding. Rebecca gave a great example of it the other day. She said, kind of discernment is like when you say, how are things going? And they say, oh yeah, everything's all right. But you know, by the tone of their voice, or the way they walk, or the way that they hold themselves, or the look on their face, that everything is not all right. If we want to have loving relationships, we need to be people who understand each other. People who are able to see when one of our fellow brothers and sisters in the congregation are struggling or suffering or having a hard time or are even joyful or happy that something has good happened. We need to take time to understand each other. And that only happens by giving each other time, doesn't it? You can only get to know how somebody responds by being in their presence, by interacting with them. We have another example of discernment as well. So will someone look at Mark 8:31 to 33? Good old Peter again. He's got a real habit of putting his foot in it. Anybody found it? You look like you found it. Sorry, 31 to 33, please. So here we see discernment working in another way. The first way is about understanding each other, so that we know how to interact and how we can care for others. But we also have to be able to have discernment to know when in our relationships with somebody else that we need to challenge each other. Because in real relationships there's accountability. Jesus isn't doing this to try and make Peter look silly or any means. He's trying to help Peter avoid falling into a trap, going down the wrong road in his understanding and in his faith. And we have to be people who are willing to do the same. And it's got to work in every way. You've got to be able to come to me and tell me when I've gone off the track, as much as I might must be able to come to you, but we must use discernment to know how to do it. To know that it comes from a place of love and not just wanting to be right, not just wanting to point out somebody else's fault, but to do it for their benefit so that they can grow and that they can become closer to God in their understanding as well. Matthew 9, verses 9 to 11.
As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?"
So we've had perseverance, we've had discernment, and now we have meeting people where they are. I heard a story once about a man who started going to his local church, and he decided he wanted to become a member. So he went to the vicar and said, "I'd like to become a member of the church." And the vicar had a conversation. It was clear the man had a faith. So they went to the committee, and the committee said, "Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we say to him, we're happy to make you a member, but we need you for 6 months to do the following things." So for 6 months, he had to go regularly to the Bible study. He had to find some way to serve in the church. And he had to give a tithe to the church for 6 months before they would accept him to be a member. So this man, he wasn't from their neighborhood. He didn't look like them. He came from another part. But he really felt God telling him to join this church. So for 6 months, he did all those things. He did them to the best of his ability. And then after the 6 months, they met again. And then the pastor came back and said, "Well, we've had a conversation, and we just don't think you're the right fit." So the man went away and he said, "God, I went there and I decided to become a member because you told me, you wanted me to join this church." And God said, "Don't worry about it. I've been trying to get in there for years and not been able to get in." Loving each other like Jesus is about meeting people where they are, not trying to drag them to where we want them to be. So often in the church, the expectation is that people will come to us rather than us going to them. But as we come into Christmas, Emmanuel, God with us. Is that not part of what Christmas is all about? That God chooses to come and be where we are? We couldn't stretch that gap. He was the only one that could. Now, sometimes being where somebody is, sometimes that's about physical location. Sometimes that's about us as the church going out to where people are to share the good news with them. But other times, it's also about somebody's spiritual journey or their intellectual understanding. Sometimes it's about understanding where that person is in their faith and deciding to go and walk alongside them rather than just trying to pull them up or mocking them because they don't understand things as well as we do. Or maybe their intellectual understanding doesn't allow them or stands in the way of them understanding more complex Christian ideas. We need to go where people are within our own congregation if we want to love like Jesus. Last Bible verse then, John 21. John 21, verses 20 to 22. If people need to go, that's okay. Don't worry. That's fine. Don't panic.
Then Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following, who also had leaned on his breast at the supper, and said, Lord, who is the one who betrays you? Peter still said to Jesus, But Lord, what about this man? And Jesus said to him, If I will that he remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow.
Yes. Thank you. That's the right verse? Yeah. So we've had perseverance. We've had, I'm losing my own place, aren't I? Perseverance, discernment, meeting people where they are, and finally we're going to finish with confidentiality. Has anybody read the Narnia books? Yes, they're lovely books. And in The Horse and His Boy, there's this moment where the main character is talking with Aslan, and Aslan the lion represents God in the books, and he's inquiring and asks about his friend that he's gotten to know. And Aslan says, Child, said the lion, I'm telling you your story. No one is told any story but their own. It's like a modern version of what we just saw in the interaction with Jesus. Peter's saying, well, what about that guy? Tell me about him. And Jesus says, what does his story matter to you? If I want him to live until I come back, then he will. What does it matter to you? The basis of all trusting relationships is confidentiality. Jesus was not in the habit of idle gossip. He wasn't in the habit of sharing people's dirty little secrets. And if anybody could have shared people's dirty little secrets, surely it was Jesus. Because he knew people. When Jesus meets the woman at the well, he doesn't report back to his disciples that she's had 5 husbands and now living with a man who's not her husband, does he? No, because that wasn't the important bit of what was going on. Within our relationship, if we're going to love like Jesus, people have to know that when they share things with us, those things stay between us. Now, there are exceptions to that, and that's because of the law. If people share things about child abuse or anything like that, those things need to be shared because it's about caring for individuals. But anything other than that, we need to know is going to stay safe. Because that is the basis of trust. When we start to trust each other, we start to open up to each other. When we start to open up to each other, then we can truly understand each other. We can truly care for each other and show them the love that all of us need. Now I'm going to finish. We're just going to go back to John 13 for a moment because there's an important thing to consider. And it's this, that loving each other the way Jesus loved is not an automatic thing. It's not automatic. In the verses we read, it says, by this all will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. It's a big if. If we do this, people will know that we're his disciples, that we're his church. Being a loving community is a choice, and it takes work. We're not going to become a super loving church overnight. It happens by a daily choice in the way that we interact with each other. It is that regular choice of when we're tired and we're sitting and then somebody starts to share their burdens, that we don't just turn around and block them out. It's that choice not to just turn around and give up on somebody just because they haven't acted towards us the way we think they should. It happens when we make a decision to love others and when we open ourselves to the Holy Spirit to find the strength and compassion to love like Jesus. I finish with a question. Will you decide to love like Jesus today? I'm going to pass back to Rebecca.
There's an awful lot to think about in what Michael shared with us. Now, we need to make that commitment to be those kind of people, don't we? So we're just going to close our eyes now and we're going to offer a prayer to the Lord. Lord, we thank you that you love us better than anybody else. That your love is higher and deeper and wider and longer than we can ever imagine. And I pray that the love of Christ will be the defining characteristic of this church, of this fellowship, that it will shine out from this place, that it will shine out from our lives and transform the world around us. Amen. Amen. We're going to sing our closing song now. We're going to sing Colours of Day. But before the benediction, I'm going to invite Shirai to come and give us the announcements, and then we'll have our blessing together. So it's 250 in the Salvation Army songbook, and we're going to stand and we're going to sing it together just now.
Morning and good to see you all once again. Good to see Gracia with us today. And a special welcome to Jamila. I don't know whether you were here last week when I wasn't here, but a special welcome to you. Just please continue to remember some of our core folk in your prayers. Please remember Pauline, who has recently had an operation, Connie, who's had a knee operation. And please continue to remember Doreen Cooper and Monica. Just a reminder of some key dates. The collection is happening this week. I hope we've had some volunteers, but if you still would like to help with that, it's on the 22nd, which is Tuesday and Wednesday, and the 23rd. And you can still sign up or just speak to the core officers. Then we've got our toy service next week, so just to remind you of that. So please remember that. And we're still looking for volunteers, I'm sure, for the heat bank, aren't we? Yeah, so just to remind you of that. There's somebody's birthday. I completely forgot.
It's Kwame's birthday.
Oh, it's Kwame's birthday. So remember Kwame and his birthday. He's not here, so we won't sing. But please do join us for tea and coffee after the meeting.
There's just one other announcement to make, and as I make it, I know the time's gone on, so sorry about this, but it is important for us to share with you. What I'm about to say, please do not interpret this that we are asking for anybody to give any more, okay? I'm not asking this at all. I'm just sharing information with you about the church and where the church is at, because Rebecca and I had our finance meeting this week, and because of the increase for the current year, because of the increase in the cost of energy, the core is now set to make a £7,000 deficit this year. That's not the worst of it. We obviously set the budget for next year. Now, with the guidance from DHQ, our core, like many other corps in the Salvation Army, receive money from headquarters so that we can exist, because we don't get in enough money to pay for how much it costs to run the corps. Our normal amount, or the amount that we got this or are getting this year, is £44,000. Next year, because of the cost of the heating increase and what they've told us to budget, we're going to have to ask for £88,000 to keep the corps going. Now, this is happening throughout the whole territory. We're not the only corps that's seeing a significant increase in the amount of money they're having to ask the Army for. And again, I am not saying any of us have to give more than we are, because we're all being impacted and we're all facing difficult situations. The reason I'm telling you is, one, so that there's accountability within our church and that you know what's going on, but two, and more importantly, so that you'll all join with me and Rebecca and continue to pray for God's provision and support for the work of the Salvation Army here. So.
Well, we remember, don't we, that Jehovah is Jehovah Jireh. He is the Lord who provides. So when we pray in faith, don't we? So we're going to have our blessing now. We're going to do the grace together. We're going to do it a bit differently. So I need you to stand up.